Once upon a time, in a small dusty village in the middle of a hot desert, there was a boy named Omar who loved playing with gears, wires, and anything electronic. Electricity would flicker on and off in their houses like magic, and it was hard to do anything without power. Every afternoon, when other kids were playing football under the hot sun, Omar would stay inside his little workshop. He had a small radio and lots of old wires and batteries. On the walls, he drew pictures of circuits and wrote numbers next to them. And on the other wall, he taped a poster of a famous electronics engineer. All he needed now was a miracle. Then one day, while looking for parts in his junk box, he found some new things, a bunch of shiny wires and two big metal terminals. Perfect, he said to himself. He connected one wire to each terminal and closed the circuit. Then he pressed the button. There was a bright flash and a loud pop. The wires got very hot and the plastic melted. But Omar wasn't scared. He laughed nervously.
Almost. Next time, I'll get it right.
He took out a thick book about electronics and sat down to read it by the light of a candle. After a few weeks of studying every day, Omar had learned how to make an electric circuit and even learned how to make his own tiny battery. He made lots of mistakes, and sometimes the lights flashed and popped again. But this time he didn't mind. He knew that if he kept trying, one day he could make something amazing. And then one evening after sunset, Omar went to the junkyard behind the houses. In the dark, he found many interesting things. An old TV set, a broken radio, and even an alarm system from a bank. He collected lots of parts and rushed home. There, in his small workshop, he put all the pieces together. It looked crazy, but he knew what he was doing. He soldered wires, added tiny switches and LEDs, and tested the connections. At last, he was almost done. He wanted to see if his device worked. He held his breath and pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then one of the LEDs started to glow. Faintly, Omar couldn't believe it.
It works! Finally! It works!
But his mom was calling him.
Omar, it's time to sleep.
Okay, Mom. Just 5 more minutes.
At that moment, Omar was happier than ever before. He dreamed of being an engineer and making new inventions, helping people. And maybe one day, he would even make his own electricity so that everyone in the village could use it without worrying about the power going out. But a few days later, something bad happened. The pump that brought water to the village stopped working. Without power, they could not pump water into the village. The big water tank in the middle of the village was empty and all the buckets were empty too. The children were sad and thirsty. The mothers were worried and angry. They didn't know what to do.
Without water, we cannot live. Without power, we have no water. How are we supposed to cook food or keep clean?
Oh, my poor plants. If it rains, they might grow. But if it doesn't rain, I will have to walk hours to the next village to get water.
And that's when Omar had an idea. He grabbed his tools and ran to the water pump. Maybe he could fix it. So, he knelt down beside the pump and opened up his new battery pack. Carefully, he connected the wires and closed the circuit. Everyone watched him in silence. They didn't understand much about electronics, but they hoped that Omar knew what he was doing. He wiped the sweat from his forehead. His hands were shaking a little. He turned the switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then he heard a strange sound. It was very quiet at first, but then whoosh, the pump roared to life and water started pumping into the pipes again. The children screamed with joy and ran under the water. They played and laughed, and soon all the buckets were full again. The women and the men clapped and cheered. They thanked Omar and told him he was a hero.
We know you can do it. A boy with a dream saved our village today. You make us all very proud.
But Omar just smiled.
It was nothing really. I just used what I learned. Anyone can do it if they try.
That night, after the work was done, the villagers gathered together under the stars. They sang songs, told stories, and laughed together. Omar sat proudly holding a light bulb that glowed thanks to his battery. He was exhausted, but he was also very happy. Great dreams are not built on magic, but on patience, learning, and never giving up. And here we see Omar again. He is still sitting among the villagers, but now he is gazing at the stars and smiling. He imagines his future. He will become an engineer and maybe one day he will even discover new stars and planets. He knows it for sure. And that's all of today. See you tomorrow.